Everybody Hates Rand is a Wheel of Time podcast that will contain spoilers for all 14 books. So if you're anti-spoiler, pause this, read all 14 books, and come back. We'll be here, waiting.
Our title is a joke and is meant to be taken as such. In the context of this podcast, everybody refers to us and our cat. You are free to feel however you want about Rand, who is a fictional character. Don't DM us.
The world is a mess, Dark One stretching out his hand. The dragon's reborn, the fire's been fanned, but everybody hates Rand. Everybody hates Rand. Everybody hates Rand.
So anyway, that was my fun story. I know it wasn't funny, but it's been on my mind.
It's pretty wild, though. It's deeply unsettling.
Super weird. Okay, so the Wheel of Time, I guess.
Well,
I guess. This is Everybody Hates Rand, your friendly neighborhood Wheel of Time podcast. I'm Emily Jushaw.
And I'm Sally Goodger.
Wow, we got through the entire thing that time. Just take a moment, take a bow.
Apparently, America is literally running out of the White Claw hard seltzer. This is in my,
Tibble just tried to grab my arm, which was so...
Tibble, are you worried about White Claw? Ain't no law when you're drinking the claw.
Oh my fucking God. What is the White Claw thing? Why is everyone obsessed with White Claw?
I have no idea. It's just that one of my friends always buys it and brings it to game night.
Uh-huh.
And the aviary group Instagram is talking about how the grocery store is currently out of White Claw.
Is it alcoholic?
Yeah, it's alcoholic.
Okay. Huh, well, I don't really get it.
I don't get it either. But apparently America is running out of White Claw hard seltzer.
Is it just this local grocery store, or is it all of America?
I don't know. Brianna sent a CNN article.
Oh.
By Jordan Valinsky. CNN Business. America is running out of White Claw hard seltzer.
Well, I wish America would run out of other things like racism, but White Claw seltzer, I guess.
Yeah, but you were being snuggled.
Yeet!
He's back. Oh, that was funny.
There's a part in these chapters where Matt is literally yeeted through a doorway.
I know, it's so good.
And it's just really, really fulfilling for me. That's just like a very good chapter.
I know, these
overall.
are very good chapters, except for the Perrin interlude.
Yeah, these are two
middle.
very good chapters bracketing a very terrible chapter.
Yeah, it's like Matt's wonderful, chaotic, bisexual energy brackets the most heterosexual chapter of all time.
I don't know. It's the worst.
It's a really terrible chapter.
It's
It made me
so
want to pluck my
bad.
eyeballs out.
Like Perrin and Matt's little interaction.
It's very sweet.
Excuse me, I have to ban the cat because he won't stop licking
It's
plates.
time to go to prison.
Don't try and bite me.
Tibble bit me on the neck this morning, like a tiny vampire. Thirsting for my blood.
So angry. Full of rage. What?
Gavin got bit by a pelican today.
Why would you wait to tell me that now?
It was really
My freaking
alarming. Okay, anyway. Matt.
I got bit by a pelican today. So a pelican bit Gethin.
Well, yeah, that makes it sound like we just let people walk around hostile pelicans at the aviary, which is not true. Gethin was helping the aviculture department beta test a new feeding experience.
Well, we'll see how well it works.
No. I didn't even get chomped on. Pelicans don't have sharp beaks. He was just trying to get a fish, and one of them just caught the side of his little hand.
Is he okay?
Yeah, he just had a little red mark. It was pretty funny.
Okay.
And he didn't even tell me about it. I saw it on his Instagram, so obviously he is fine. Otherwise, he would have been telling everybody how he got bit by a
Pelican bit me!
Yeah, legitimately.
Gethin's one of the funniest people on the planet.
Yeah, Emily met all my friends this weekend, and now they all like her more than me. This is okay. This is what happens.
I had met her friends before, so clearly their memory of me isn't very
But, I mean,
good.
you met them at, like, our work party where everyone was awkward.
Yeah, I've met them since then. They've been in our house.
Yeah, you hid in your room.
I still was polite to them for a minute.
Anyway, she hung out with my friends for the first time this weekend for an extended period of time, and they all like her more than me. Literally everybody was like, Emily's so fun. Just bring her to game night. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, it's okay. I've accepted that Emily's cooler than me. But it does hurt a little bit, you guys.
The mass irony of this is that I literally cannot go near my friends without them asking how you are and wanting to know about you. How's Janet? How's Sally?
Okay, Janet is an exception.
With her beautiful, perfect hand on my knee. She's like, how's Sally?
Janet's asking from a therapist's perspective.
She is not. She just genuinely
loves
loves
you. How's Sally?
No, she's like, how's Sally? My favorite individual.
No, this is not
And
true.
Devon's like, how's Sally? My competition for my girlfriend's love.
No, Devon and I are now apparently competition for Gethin's affection. Jeez.
That's true, yeah. We can't bring this up. Let's just say Devon and Gethin, friends of the podcast, their worlds intersected in the most interesting way. Last weekend, it was pretty buck wild. Still haunted by it.
It was extremely hilarious. I think about it all the time.
Roller derby was involved. It was just shit.
It was wild. Anyway, what else is wild is the opening scene of Matt drawing on a table in wine because he's a fucking lunatic.
Yeah, Matt being a fucking emo in a bar.
Yeah.
He's literally that character in, like, Dungeons and Dragons campaigns that the player characters walk in and are like, we should talk to that guy because he's by himself in the bar doing emo shit. So he probably knows something that's relevant to the plot.
Yeah.
And Matt's like, I sure do. I was in the Stone of Tyr when it was getting attacked.
Yeah.
I almost had to fight a murderer with knives, which, let me tell you, would have been cooler than what actually happened.
Yeah, it gets eaten by some Trollocs.
Yeah. He did kill a great man with knives, though.
He's cool.
Why does he not just walk around with his giant staff?
I don't know. At some point, he does start doing
I guess that's the point of the knives. None of them really walk around just with their weapons in the Stone of Tyr. Rand's just got his automatic weapons of magic fire.
His AR-15.
Yeah. Ew, I don't like that. Ban magic fire from the Stone of Tyr, please, and all other very bad weapons. Anyway, yeah, Matt's sitting there at the bar and is like, blah, 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 PTSD, blah, blah. And then he hears someone over at another table mention the Two Rivers, and he goes over and is like, Two Rivers. And they're like, who are you? He's like, I'm young, I'm fun, I'm sexy, I'm new in town. Tell me what you know about the Two Rivers. Anyway, he gets out of them that the Two Rivers is being invaded by white cloaks or whatever.
Yeah, and that they're searching for the Dragon Reborn and a man with yellow eyes.
And that's like,
dun, dun,
anybody else? And they're like, no. And it's like, Matt, you don't have any distinguishing features anyway. You are literally the, blandest motherfucker.
I love this description of him where they're like, he's got nice hair, but it's really messy. And his clothes are really nice, but they're really fucking gross.
Yeah.
It's just like
he's the image of a young Google.
Mucking around with the commoners.
They're like, oh, nice clothes, but he has slept in them 3 nights in a row, it would seem.
Yeah, they probably smell so bad.
He just probably smells bad.
It's the one
we can romanticize Matt all we want, but at the end of the day, he's just sort of smelly, and we need to accept that about him.
And we need to make him shower.
Yeah, incredibly sweaty once he gets to the ale waist.
Oh my god, you're probably right.
But then again, they all are sweaty because that's how they bathe.
Ew.
Oh, that begs the question, why are there always scenes of Edwin and Avienda in sweat tents, but not a single man scene of sweat tents?
Yeah, we're not just all around the, Gall and company. Having just like a sexy little time.
Yeah, this enforces the idea that Robert Jordan just loves writing scenes where women are just nude, but can't handle men being nude, because how fucking hilarious would it be to have a Rand, Ruark, Matt, and Asmodeus
just all sitting in a sweat tent together. Oh my god.
Most hilarious.
Yeah, Ruark's just chill as hell, and everyone else is like, hey.
Everyone's like, ooh, don't like this.
Then we'd have
naked.
Yeah. Then we'd have to have everyone describing each other naked, as the women do sometimes, which is weird.
I guess we do see Matt naked early on in the shadow, in the fires of heaven. You know that iconic scene when Rand's like, oh no, dark hounds, I gotta go see if Matt's okay.
And it's like, excuse
Matt's
me!
like, I'm post-coitally nude. Can you leave me alone?
Anyway, show male sweat tents 2K19.
Yeah, exactly. Show male sweat tents 2K19.
Yeah.
Equal opportunity nudity.
It's really not too much to ask for.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, can you imagine if they get to the Wheel of Time TV show and they're like, oh, it's written in the books that there's just like 9 women sitting around naked in these scenes.
Gross.
So gross. I want men to be naked too.
It's
God.
true. Yeah, and there's also that, like, interesting... I can't remember what it was, but I was reading this interesting thing the other day about how, like... I can't remember the language, but it's, like, men's sexuality is, like, rendered as, like, grotesque to a comedic effect. It's, like, men are just, like, horny in a way that's, like, gross, instead of, like, having, like, an authentic sexuality.
You mean in Wheel of Time specifically?
No, just, like, in a lot of media.
Oh, no, because it does make sense in Wheel of Time specifically, given the only character who we really see have an active sexuality is Matt, and that is often for comedic purpose.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's, like, very much the fool, the juggler, in, like, not the juggler, the jester, that's what I meant.
He does juggle.
Yeah, he does, also. I feel in, like, medieval art, they often, like, portray fools or whatever as just, like, dudes with their genitals out and just, like, huge dicks.
Yeah.
And it's just, like, to portray that, like, incredible, like, sexual desire, that lasciviousness, I think would be the correct term. But, so, yeah, it's just, like, weird to pair those traits together when you start thinking about it that way. Because then you have more intellectual characters who are like, no, I don't like sex, I hate it.
Yeah. And
you're like, what? Those two things don't have to go together.
correlate,
You can have a character who doesn't like sex, but, you know, you get what I'm saying.
And I can't remember, there was, like, a comparison of the way male sexuality was treated versus female sexuality, which is, of course, very binary, but it's just interesting, like, the way that we're taught to have more access to female sexuality.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
We are taught that, like, when female sexuality is portrayed in any way, even if it is to the detriment of women and the female characters, then it is somehow liberating. Which is not necessarily the case if you have trends in the way you are displaying women's sexuality.
Yeah.
That are to the advantage of the patriarchy. God, I just sounded so put together.
You are very put together, and you're really smart and eloquent.
Thank you so much. That was just like it all came together.
I'm sorry.
Of course, I've forgotten what I said now. But
it was good.
Thanks.
I guess I'm not sorry that we've been talking about sexuality so much in the last few chapters. The Shadow Rising is just very charged, I guess.
It is very charged. We do have this moment, like, to skim over Matt a little bit and get over to Perrin. We have this moment where the Perrin, Faile, and Berylane triangle begins, which is Berylane literally just walking in on Perrin while he's shirtless. And kind of talking to him in a really patronizing way and asking him to take a message to Rand for her, and him just being like, no, I'm busy.
Yeah, I'm not your servant.
Yeah, you can't, like, just boss me around, and her being like, well, what the fuck? Well, then I am going to fuck you in front of Faile.
Yeah, it's very weird.
It's very weird, and then when she leaves, Faile, like, runs after her and is like, I'm gonna knife you, and it's like, what? What's happening?
I know, because, like, when Faile comes in, Berylane makes this, like, gross show of, like, touching Perrin's face, which I just, like...
Yeah,
face touches are so invasive.
Yeah.
Like, any touching without consent is invasive, but face touches just feel very predatory.
Well, it, like, mentions his neck, too, like, caressing the side of his neck, and I'm just like, don't like that at all.
But then, Pale.
It's their celebrity couple name.
Pale. Neither of them are very pale,
It's
though,
better than Ferret.
No, Ferret is amazing.
Sounds like Ferret.
Yeah, Ferret. That's what their celebrity couple name is. Ferret. But then Perrin and Faile have this discussion that becomes an argument where they're talking about going to the Two Rivers or whatever to save them from White Cloaks, and at one point Faile brings up Berylane, and Perrin's like, yeah, who wouldn't want to fuck Berylane, basically.
Yeah.
And Faile's like, what the fuck? And then because obviously that's a shitty thing to say.
to your girlfriend.
And Perrin's whole thing is like, well, now she won't come with me and I'll keep her safe. Drama, male honor. And then Berylane goes and Faile goes and whips a knife on Berylane.
Yeah, just totally misdirecting her aggression.
Yeah.
But also, it's just how to properly explain without us ourselves becoming wearisome that the Perrin and Faile Berylane dynamic is at its root just the most immature thing on the planet. It's immature in its existence. It's immature in the way it's written, frankly. It's just like characters being vastly immature. And it's like, on a certain level, you want to excuse characters who are young. Like Perrin and Faile, and I guess Berylane, who I assume is in her late 20s, early 30s, something like that. You want to have youth as an excuse. But at a certain point in a series like this, even if it is theoretically only taking place over a year or two, we are, the reader, sitting through 14 books, and we would need to see character growth a little faster than chronologically it might make sense.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like, this scene would be like, okay, whatever, it's weird, except that then this dynamic continues for about 6 more books.
Yeah. 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 There's just really not anything else to say. And it really bothers me because it especially, infantilizes the two women.
Yes.
More so than Perrin. Ruark literally, pulls them apart like children.
And then punishes them like children.
Yeah, he, takes away Faile's toy and sends Berylane to bed without breakfast the next morning and, whatever, which is supposed to be funny, you know?
Exactly, yeah.
But it comes again to the detriment of, female sexuality and the way that female sexuality is villainized and infantilized in these books to the point of women being, unable to handle their own sexuality, and the male characters, Rand is always, policing the 3 women that he's sleeping with. And it's Berylane, of course, isn't trusted because she's going after other people's husbands. And it's just I don't know.
Well, Faile is infantilized so repeatedly and so aggressively by literally everyone in this series that it is, astounding that she doesn't snap and commit murder halfway through. Perrin being I'm going to brutally break up with her in the meanest way possible, essentially, so that she doesn't come with me, rather than talking it out with her and allowing her to make her own decision, is just the most buck wild bullshit of all time. Relationship 101, you don't do that. Yeah. And Perrin apparently doesn't learn.
No, because he does shit like this all the time.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, until the very end of the series. But it's like we've said with Perrin's wolf stuff before, this stuff isn't happening fast enough to justify its place in the
there's
series.
Something about Perrin and Faile and everybody who gets sucked into them
drama
as the central, is that everything becomes extremely static. And I don't know if it's because they're removed from the plot proper, so to speak, when Perrin breaks off from Matt and Rand at this point, but it's just the same themes, the same arguments, the same character dynamics being played out over and over and over again. And it's upsetting because I'm tired of reading about marriages that are all about, I don't know, people not being happy.
Yeah, combative, upsetting marriages that don't get happy until way far down the line. And even that, I'm not saying give me a picture perfect marriage because I know such a thing doesn't exist, but it's also I would like for you to portray at least one romance in this entire series. Yeah. In a way that is normal. Yeah. And not just played for drama over and over.
It's obnoxious.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking terrible.
But anyway. And I also and Faile comments on it, which is kind of interesting, I guess, in some meta way, but she slips really easily into slut shaming Berylane.
She does, yeah. It's very interesting, and so does God, I was just reading in the last book of The Wheel of Time, A Memory of Light. I don't know why I called it that. What the fuck? They have their little fantasy UN summit where they're here, we're meeting before the last battle. And it has some buck wild shit in it, including it's Edween's point of view initially, and she just slut shames Berylane out of nowhere.
What the hell?
It is, like, the most, like, blatantly, like, Brandon Sanderson just being like, I don't know what to do. I'll just throw in old character dynamics.
Oh my god.
Like, of all time. Like, guys. Here's what I said in the blog, and I'll repeat it here. If you're not going to engage with misogyny in a productive way, don't include it in your fantasy books. You have the fucking option of not including it. Especially internalized misogyny, if you're a man, frankly, because you're not really ever
gonna get it.
Ugh. Anyway.
I also think it's just lazy, especially...
Yeah.
On the part of male writers, it feels like an excuse to not actually dedicate time to your female characters. Just be like, oh, they've just, like, got internalized misogyny. Like, Edwin could be thinking so many other things about, like, Bear Lane at that given point.
Well, I was like...
Or nothing at all.
I was like, I'm, like, women think terrible things about other women all the time. None of us are saints. But a lot of the time, when you are internally or externally slut-shaming another woman, it's coming from a place of really deep insecurity. Mm-hmm. And I was like, for Edwin in this point in the series, in particular, that makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like, Edwin is the fucking, like, Vatican.
She is the Vatican.
The Pope. I just forgot the word the Pope.
She is the Vatican.
She is the Vatican. Earlier in the series with Faile, it makes a little more sense, but it's still just, like, it's not like there's a whole lot of growth to examine it or to engage with it in any meaningful way. So, pretty disappointing writing there.
Dumb.
But back to Matt, who is the least disappointing character in the entire series. Oh yeah, Matt has a hilarious conversation with Perrin, which will in fact be his last conversation with Perrin until book 13.
That's crazy.
It's so insane. It's like, so insane.
Matt and Perrin have a weird relationship, though. I never think of them being friends. I think we've talked about this before, where it's like Perrin's friend with Rand and Matt's friends with Rand, but Matt and Perrin are not friends.
They're so weird.
Yeah, they have a weird
We just,
dynamic.
like, don't see them together enough.
Yeah.
We see them together in The Great Hunt, but Matt is being so aggressively annoying throughout that book, and Perrin's being so emo that it's, like, it's so weird.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I am interested to see portrayed on the screen because I just think the actors will bring something to that.
Yeah.
Like, we've talked about physicality before and how it's portrayed between the boys, but it would be like, it's like so many little moments. Merry and Pippin, for example, are very cute and fun in the books, but it's only once they're on the screen, like, roughhousing with each other, being very affectionate with each other, touching each other, that it's like, oh my god, these are the two cutest lads on the entire... Tackling Boromir to the ground together.
I love that scene. It's the greatest scene in cinema.
Yeah, that was perfection.
Yeah.
I don't know who came up with that one.
God, I hope it was Sean Bean who was like, tackle me.
Sean Bean was like, you tinies, please tackle me. And they were like, we would love to.
Okay, these two chaotic Irishmen were like, you bet.
They're so good. Anyway, so, like, yeah, that is something I'm actually interested to see on screen. Hopefully they don't stilt it too badly. But yeah, Matt's like, have you heard the fucking rumors? And Perrin's like, yeah, I'm going back right now, literally packing my bags. And Matt's like, oh, okay, well. And Perrin's like, you don't have to go because they didn't really mention you. And also just, you don't have to go because I'm going. And Matt's like, oh, but I want to... And, like, Matt and his relationship to fate and destiny are a very interesting subtopic. Mm-hmm. Because Matt is, I think, the only character who fights against what the pattern demands of him so actively that he can, like, feel it constantly.
Yeah.
As we, like, get later into the series, I think there will be moments where Perrin will be like, okay, I feel Rand pulling at me, kind of. Mm-hmm. But Perrin just, like, goes with it. It's like a sensation he acknowledges and then moves with. Matt is just, like, constantly, it's like he's yanking at a leash. Mm-hmm. Which is a very, like, I don't know, just a super interesting way of looking at someone who is kind of tied down by fate.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, he's just such an interesting character. I was thinking about, too, there's this great line at the beginning of the chapter where he goes into the doorway where he, like, sees a rat run away and he's like, show me the way and I'll go with you. And it just, like, breaks your heart.
Sad.
Yeah.
I know. It's like, with Matt, one of the things I find interesting is that Matt is so rarely an angry character. Mm-hmm. he often portrays anger, but it's never really to any serious effect.
Yeah.
He,
just sort of grumpy.
Yeah, he'll be grumpy, and he'll punch walls at random, but after punching a wall immediately, He's kisses like, the old lady. Yeah. You know? And it's just, like, a little bit shocking to me how good-humored he is able to be throughout all of this, because if it were me, I'd just be angry all the fucking time. And it's just, like, that's just such a good character.
I know, especially in this chapter where he goes into the doorway. So good. Such a good chapter, especially because he kicks in the door to the room that the doorway is in, and then, like, the levels.
I know.
The drama.
The panache.
Yeah, the gay drama that you're bringing to this.
Yeah, after his conversation with Perrin, where he literally, like, can't even say the words that he wants to go with Perrin because he's so... Which, like, a lot of that anger would be directed at Rand, I feel, because Rand's the one pulling him. It's just, like, so...
I know, he's a fascinating boy.
Especially in this book, I think, we just see so much of... I just feel like the pattern, or whatever you want to call it, throws things violently at Matt to get him to stay where he is, like a building collapsing on him.
God.
Or, you know, walking into a battle that he can't walk away from. Et cetera, et cetera. Matt's the one who has the dice in his head that just put him constantly on edge. And it's just like, it's just so...
I know. It's really interesting. Weird. Again, Matt is the most interesting character in this series. He just, like... The way that he, like, slips through the, like, mythological structures of this book is fascinating.
Slips through is just such, like, a good... He's just like, constantly
kind of... Fate.
Bobbing and weaving his way through
he's really...
his destiny or whatever.
Yeah, well, everyone is, like, marching forward. Matt's just, like...
Yeah. And we come face to face kind of with Matt's destiny as it is written. When he goes through the doorway, he, like, convinces himself that his life is in danger, so he's not technically breaking his promise. And he goes down there, and he's like, okay, well, I'll do it. I'll go through. I'm gonna do it. And then he walks through and has this interaction with, I seriously cannot remember if it's the eel fin or the ale fin. Who cares? The snake people.
Pointies.
The fin. Who are like, hello, did you bring any music or iron? And Matt is like, what the fuck? And they're like, music or iron? Chop, chop. Did you bring it? No. And he's like, no, this is steel, not iron. And they're like, okay, great, you kept the bargain, you can come with me now. And Matt's like, okay. And we're introduced to, for the first time, to this very eerie, like, just, atmosphere of this setting.
Have you ever seen The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari?
Is that a movie?
It is.
I have not.
I'm going to pull up some screenshots for you, because that's just what I think of when I think of this setting.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's this, like, really weird, I can't remember what the movement's called. It's, like, German something in cinema, and they just have these, like, crazy settings.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I think of optical illusions. Yeah. Like, you see those optical illusions that are, like, you know, staircases that just go on and on each other and hallways and whatever, and I'm always like, it's like being inside that.
Yeah.
Like, it's a really interesting take on the labyrinth, I think. Because this is the labyrinth, as far as we're introduced to it in the series. Yeah. Matt will literally go into the labyrinth to fight the monsters in the middle and...
Save Moiraine.
It's kind of an Orpheus meets
I was thinking Orpheus this entire time.
Yeah, it's both an underworld setting as well as a labyrinth setting, because they are... Later, when Matt and company decide to go into the Tower of Genji and kind of face the Finn, Matt's like, okay, well, how are we going to get in? And Brigitte, he talks to Brigitte about it, who in one of her many lifetimes has actually gone into the Tower of Genji and failed, I think. And she's like, okay, well, you've got to do these things. Like, to cheat, you've got to have the music, you've got to have iron, you've got to have whatever. So it's like, if you kind of take her as the Ariadne figure, giving them the way in and out. And Matt himself is Ariadne, as it turns out. It's just really good. I love
that boy.
I know, I do too. Anyway, he meets the Finn, who are like, hello, we are here. What are your questions? And he's like, okay, well, it just explains the whole situation, which is a funny thing.
Like, listen.
He's like, okay, the white cloaks, doesn't give any specifics because he says he doesn't see the need to, but of course, as we later learn, that would have, like, gotten him immediately killed, basically, if he starts bringing that shit up. But, he's like, maybe we learned that before. Moiraine says something about, like, you're not supposed to, like, bring light and dark into it, or you're not supposed to, like, the Dragon Reborn is a topic that is probably a no-no, which is interesting, because Rand goes in. And then they're like,
titular Dragon Reborn.
What the fuck? Bah! But Matt's like, okay, what should I do? And they're like, you have to go to Ruidan. And he's like, what?
It's like, that was not an option.
He's like, what? I don't wanna. That seems terrible.
I don't want to do that. I want to go to Moab.
He's like, ugh. Arches National Park?
No, thank you.
Sounds terrible. Look at me. Do I look like I'm built to handle the heat?
No.
No, I'm built to lounge. Have people fan me. Feed me grapes.
Matt would hate that.
He would. He's got too much energy. He's an ADHD boy.
Fanning himself.
Yeah. But they're like, you have to go to Ruidan, and at some point Matt is, like, demanding further answers, and they are like, he says, well, why do I have to go to Ruidan? And they're like, to meet your fate. Yeah. Essentially.
They're like, if you don't go, you'll die.
And he kind of gets upset. Yeah, if you don't go, you'll die, because you'll have...
Sidestepped fate, I think.
Sidestepped fate, yeah.
It's
such an interesting thing. Because then you have this clear indication that if Matt could manage it, he would totally fuck things up, which is why the pattern is just
so
simply not allowing him to deviate from the course. It's just a really interesting take on fate. But at some point, there's, like, chaos within the tower. He hears these bells start ringing, like alarms, and everyone starts getting really agitated and upset, and they're like, okay, you gotta go. And he's like, no, you have to tell me what my fate is. And they say,
just start reading off a litany of things. They also has one of my favorite lines in the whole series in this one.
Son of Battles one.
Yeah, go to Ruidan. Son of Battles, run, trickster.
I know, it's so funny. He says, what fate? And they say, to marry the daughter of the 9 moons, to die and live again and live once more a part of what was, to give up half the light of the world to save the world. And then they say, go to Ruidan, Son of Battles, go to Ruidan, trickster, go gambler, go. Makes me so angry.
What if my first tattoo was go to Ruidan, trickster? Go to Ruidan, Son of Battles.
It would be really good.
I just love that they call him Son of Battles. I think that's such a kick-ass title.
They continue to refer to him that way. It's just so good. Can I tell you something really upsetting about A Memory of Light? It'll make you laugh super hard because it's so fucking bad.
Oh, no.
No. At Fantasy UN, Rand is like, okay, here are my terms for doing the going to fight the Dark One. He's like, here's this, like, treaty I want you all to sign to, like, kind of solidify your diplomatic relationship to each other after I'm dead. And everyone's like, okay. And he's like, also, here are my, like, I'm going to break the seals, and also I want to be in command of the armies of the light. And eventually someone is like, if you're fighting the Dark One, you can't also be commanding the armies of the light, so you can't do that. And Matt is, like, conspicuously not present at this. He, like, dropped off Moiraine and then pieced the fuck out.
What?
Like, he's just, like, somewhere, he's, like, gone to find Tuon or something.
Oh my god, the drama.
Bullshit. But it's, like, someone's like, okay, well, we still need, like, a commander of some kind. And for some godforsaken reason, Rand is like, what about Elaine? And it's so funny. And everyone's just, like, cool with it.
No!
The Dragon Reborn's 18-year-old baby mama. No. They're like, yeah, she's a good ruler. And I'm like, she's been queen for 2 months.
Yeah,
what are you talking about?
Christ.
And during her reign, she's almost died, like, 6 times. Has done nothing about the Black Tower issue. And, oh, by the way, under her watch, Caemlyn got fucking invaded and, like, taken off the map. So, remind me again what a good leader she is? What the fuck?
Does she do it? Does she end up commanding them? Or
I can't fucking remember what happens after that.
Roll back up.
I think they, like, end up deciding, like, they kind of have, like, a coterie of the 5 great general, well, 4, because what's-his-face is dead. And then they all get compromised, and then Matt just sweeps in. It's just, like,
What?
Elaine's, like, technically in charge, but then Matt's, like, the military guy. It's so buck wild.
Okay.
Like, the writing of it is just like, what? There are, like, 9 people in this room who could be like, I know a guy.
I know one boy.
I know a boy.
I know a battle boy.
Who, like, has a pretty fucking good track record. It's all in the wins column. Yeah. 0 losses. On the battle frontier.
Keeps coming up W. I don't know.
It's so fucking... He's he's the Serena Williams of battles. What the hell?
Oh my god, I wish that's what the Finn called him. Run Serena Williams of battles. Go to Ruidan.
Oh, man. Okay, so anyway, that's just super upsetting, and I've been thinking about that for, like...
That's really stupid.
I've been, like, awake at night, being like, why the fuck? Who let this get past the editors?
Elaine? Why wasn't Harriet like Brandon?
Harriet...
And then hit him with his own huge book.
It was just like, what? Oh my god. Anyway, the Fantasy UN Summit is one of the most poorly written scenes in the entire series, so don't look forward to that. Anyway... Then they literally pick up Matt after dispensing this wisdom and run him back to the doorway, which they literally throw him out of.
So good.
And I imagine him just, like, coming out of the doorway. Like, just that visual of just, like, coming out of the doorway and then, like, somersaulting cartoonishly into a bunch of barrels.
Yeah, and, like, landing upside down with his legs in the air.
Yeah, and he's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and he tries to run through it twice.
Twice. Fails both times, obviously.
He's, like, broken a bunch of terangrial, too.
Yeah, doesn't give a shit.
He's like, I don't give a shit.
He's just like, broken pottery. And it's like, those are magical grenades, but sure, Matt.
What if you died?
What if you... What is fate to Macathon? He's just been told he has to go to Ruidan or he'll die. But also he'll die and live again.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
And he's like, I don't want to do either of those things.
He's like, marriage!
I know, that's the one that upsets him, which is so good.
Fuck you, I'm not getting married!
Yeah.
They're all like, okay.
He's like, I'd rather marry a pig than a noble woman, which is so funny. He's so stupid.
Anyway, he's all ranting and railing, and then Rand kind of just, like, pops out of the doorway, and they're just like, oh, hey, y'all.
It's like that Spider-Man meme where they're pointing at each other.
What are you doing here? God, it's so funny.
And then, oh shit, sirens go off, and
they have just such a funny...
Yeah.
Yeah, Rand's like, did you go through? And Matt's like, yeah, I went through. And it was just like, they just lied to me. What the fuck are they? And Rand's like, I don't really know. Did you get your answers? And he's like, none of that made sense. What about you? And then Moiraine is there. She's like, what the fuck? She's like, is Perrin in there? Like, starts, like, peering around the doorway, expecting Mr. Shoulders
so
himself to pop Kool-Aid Man-like out of the terrain. And Matt's like, Perrin's getting ready for bed, like the good boy he is. Mom.
Come on.
You know Perrin's the best behaved of all of us. Please. And Moiraine's like, okay, well, at least you escaped with your lives. Like, who told you of this? Like, which one of them? And Rand's like, I read it in a book. Thank you very much. I can read. And Moiraine's like, what about you, Matt? And Matt, like, has this... Well, I could rat on a dweeb, but it is so much funnier to piss off Moiraine. Yeah. And then he's like, what? A book, obviously.
I do read sometimes.
And then he's relieved when she doesn't follow up on that because he forgot the titles of the books as soon as Rand said them because he lost interest.
When Rand started talking about books.
Oh my god, this is like comedy gold. It is so funny.
He was relieved Moiraine didn't ask me about the titles. I lost interest as soon as Rand started talking about books.
He had not paid attention once Rand brought up books.
I know, like,
Rand's like books, and Matt's just like following, like, what? Where am I? What the fuck?
Matt's like, how did I get here?
What does he start thinking about?
I know, like,
he's such a nutcase.
He's just like completely blanked out.
Yeah, and Moiraine asked them about it, and Rand's like, yeah, it was pretty wild because they had to bring, like, some old lady in to translate for me. And then Matt has the chilling realization that no one translated for him. He'd just been speaking the old tongue the whole time. And Moiraine's like, Matt? And Matt's like, yeah, I didn't get that far. I didn't get answers. They just kind of yeeted me out again. And Moiraine's like,
you're such a fucking liar.
It's like bullshit.
He's like, no, I just got thrown out.
Matt's like, yeah, it's fine. But Rand's like, so their answers are true, and Moiraine's like, yeah, as far as we can tell. Kind of gives some theory about the Finn world and how it is folded in strange ways, she says, which is really interesting. Mm-hmm. And she's like, but they have really bizarre answers. If you need help figuring out what yours mean, then here I am.
Yeah. I offer
Mythic
my services.
Extraordinaire.
Yeah.
Like a high-end escort.
What?
I offer my services.
Oh, yeah.
Prophecy. Dismantling.
Emily's like keeps drawing her hand across her face like with jazz fingers.
I think I'm thinking like a fan, like a courtesan fan. Anyway, and both boys are like, we're not fucking telling you anything because we're paranoid motherfuckers. And Marie's like, yeah, fair enough. And then she's like leaving, and Rand's like, well, did they give you answers? And she's like, fuck you. And Matt's like, why can't we go there twice, Moiraine? And she's like, if I knew everything Matchroom, I would not need to have my questions answered.
I know.
And he's like, okay, Mom.
The sass.
Fine, sassy. And then Matt and Rand are just like there together. And Rand's like, did you find out your answer? And Rand's like, well, did you? And then I'm like, okay. Goodbye. And part ways.
It's very drama.
It's so funny.
It's one of my favorite chapters in the world.
I know, Matt's like, did you hear about Emmons Field? And Rand's like, yeah, I guess Perrin's gonna take care of it. Bye. And sails off.
Yeah. Floats away.
Literally floats away, practically.
And Matt's like,
And then Matt's like, okay, well, this has gotten progressively weirder. I can't go anywhere in this dang
Can't go
town.
anywhere in this fucking country. Fuck
Yeah,
Tyr.
What the fuck, Tyr? Get me out of Tyr. I don't think Matt ever goes back to Tyr. Good for him.
Oh God, would you?
No, I wouldn't, but it's just like, good for him.
Today I was
Most of the other
listening to
characters do.
Gimme a Man After Midnight
That
on my way
classic.
to work. And
Yeah.
just like fucking get my whole life thinking about that song playing while Matt runs across rooftops and gets
It's so
kicked by Gaul.
fucking good. Oh, the sexuality of it.
I know, because it's like, which man are we getting, Matt or Gaul? You know?
Yeah.
It's like a fun, sexy
Ideally.
twist on the end, yeah.
Can't think of anything else. Pretty much
I
so.
can't think of anything else. Except that this chapter is really satisfying. For some reason, Matt's relationship with Prophecy, like, plays out more satisfying to me than anybody else's.
I think it's partly because we see Matt engage with Prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
So much of Rand's work with Prophecy happens off screen in him reading books. Which I get. You don't ever want to, like, write about a character reading books. Like, that can be pretty fucking boring. But, like, so much of Rand's, like, private revelations and his coming to terms with things, just, like, we don't see. Mm-hmm. We also don't see Rand interact with the Finn. We don't see him, like, seeking answers the way that Matt does. And it's, like, that doesn't necessarily mean it would be any more interesting, but we, in the same way that we explicitly see Matt being manhandled by fate, we also see him kind of actively searching its boundaries. Mm-hmm. And we just don't really get that with Rand or with Perrin, who just kind of is just like, whatever the fuck.
Mr. Steadfast.
Yeah, Mr. Do what needs to be done.
Trot along. Mr. Trot along.
Mm-hmm.
I love Matt.
I do too.
What else is new,
Die for that boy. Okay, we will be back next week to talk about various people leaving the Stone of Tyr. Which will be as painful as you think it is.
I cannot believe, at one point when I was reading these chapters, I looked up, and I'm like, we're 250 pages into this book?
Yeah. But wow.
Jesus Christ.
Like, they spend so much time in the Stone of Tyr.
Yeah. I just don't think I remembered it being that long.
Yeah, we don't have everyone out of the stone until, let me find the page.
Oh my God.
Until chapter 22, which is titled Out of the Stone.
Yeah.
But until then, we have at least two main points of view character. Rand, Matt, and Edwin, and Moiraine and Lan are all in the Stone of Tyr until that point. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Leave! It's not that exciting a setting.
It's not.
So anyway, we'll be back next week with that. Thank you for listening.
Audacity.
Nutcase.
Oh my God, that almost scared me. What if we'd lost the whole recording?
And that would have been a really painful thing to suffer.
Audacity Krampus.
Thanks to Glenna McKenzie for our theme song.
I don't know if anybody related to this publication is listening, but thank you to Tor.com and Christina Orlando for the wonderful article that was written about a bunch of different Wheel of Time podcasts, including EHR, and they just had a lot of really lovely things to say about the podcast, which was really sweet and probably brought a lot of new listeners. So if you're here, welcome. we are always like this.
Sometimes we're worse. This was actually pretty put together. Jesus Christ.
And just a general, what is happening to my brain? Hey, check us out on Patreon is what I'm trying to say.
I can't think of the word either.
I'm just like completely out of it.
Promotion?
Sure. We work really hard on this, even though it may not seem like it. We do, and we don't.
These two idiots just come in every week.
And they're like, bah!
No, that's only part of it.
You only see the tip of the iceberg. Like
Jesus.
those graphics they always have, where it's like what you see of people, and it's like what they're suffering. And it's this like dramatic iceberg poster.
Yeah, you don't know what the fuck we're suffering.
You don't know what we're suffering.
Actually, you probably do, because we talk about
You
it
know, it's just like, the first 10 minutes is like, therapy hour, Gethin got bit by a pelican. So check us out on Patreon. It's a really great way to support our work. Plus you get a lot of fun extra goodies like the blog Emily mentioned and the other podcast, We Don't Watch Outlander, where we are talking about Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. We spent a lot of time talking about how big horny we are for Icy Rumpelstiltskin.
Yeah.
At least me, anyway.
Oh no, I'm super horny for him. I'll fuck him in it next week.
So, yeah, you can get those juicy tidbits over at patreon.com/everybodyhatesrand.
Would you like to sign us off?
I mean, I feel bad that I dropped Gethin got bit by a pelican way too
I was gonna
early
say, yeah, that
in
would...
the podcast. I was just aching to tell you.
We'll edit it out and drop it back in
at the end. So it's like...
No, I'm not that good at editing.
Yes, you are that good at editing.
No.
So this is from Cindalinda on Instagram. Let me know if I'm saying that correctly. So here goes the story. This was last year, aka first PhD year. I was going out from a class and the campus was hosting a blood donor event, so I thought it would be it would be nice to do something good and donate blood. You are brave. You are so brave.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I hadn't eaten anything since breakfast at 7 a.m. It was around 1 p.m. at this time. But I have done that before, and I've never felt bad afterwards, so I just went for it. Again, brave.
I'm amazed they let you.
Yeah.
I've showed up to donate blood, and they were like, no, you're wasting away. It's like you have the
wasting disease?
The wasting disease.
Tuberculosis.
And
like John Keats up in this
please, take my blood. And they were like,
blood.
no, you're too weak.
Okay. After donating, the nurse gave me some water and some sweets. Standard procedure. I drank the water but didn't eat the sweets because they had gelatin and I can't eat that. But again, I was feeling fine and going home, so it didn't really matter, or so I thought. So I get in the subway, all fine, but then I received an email about a very important meeting that I had to attend in around 20 minutes about the decision on my scholarship that would allow me to continue my studies. Like a super important meeting in 20 minutes. I had barely enough time to get off, take the opposite direction train, and make it in time. So I get off the train, start running like crazy, all while having low blood levels in my body and an empty stomach. Had to take some stairs and such until I finally get to the train that goes to my campus. I get in, tired, hungry, and hyper-stressed because in some minutes I will know if I could continue studying. My anxiety levels were so high, and of course, just as the train starts, I pass out. Fell on the floor completely unconscious. After some minutes, I think I woke up surrounded by people asking if I'm fine. As I try to answer, I pass out again. Then I wake up to more people surrounding me and a woman leaving me some candies on the floor near me like I was a wild animal you don't want to scare. Anyway, I knew I couldn't eat those candies because they also have gelatin, so I just pushed them away because I'm too tired to explain. The train arrives to my station. I get out and run to my meeting while a bunch of people scream at me that I should wait for help. In the end, I had a huge bruise on my back and a headache, but hey, I got the scholarship.
Is this a New York story?
No, I think they live somewhere in South America.
Because, dear God, the, New Yorkness of
I know,
slowly
pushing
some candy. You're like, I don't really know what's going on
I
here,
don't know if I trust you enough to bite
candy.
me.
Yeah.
Have some candy, train passenger.
Train fainter. Trainter?
Train fainter.
Train
The
fainter.
new Marvel movie.
By Agatha Christie.
Yours was so
a
much
bitch
better.
loves her trains. Congrats on the scholarship.
Bye.
Bye.